YouTube, this is the final tournament before the new pack release of July. Now, this tournament is including the release of Arcana Force and Gladiator. Probably not in the top 16. I have not checked myself, but maybe it is. We did see some in the early rounds of Gladiator Madness. Now, beyond that, we have Punk versus Branded in the top 16. By watching as long as you can, that greatly supports these videos. Hajime.
There can only be one winner, and you're looking at it. Let's go.
Starting off with the Gold Sark, banish from the deck here. We have double Droll and Lockbird. Only one's going to be counted as a form of disruption, but if you finger the Droll, we then Droll you again. We're going to be using Max C, not Droll, on the Aluber being added here, which is quite interesting, as we're not going to even bother fingering it, which is also interesting. What's going on here? As we go straight into a Sanctifier Dragon plus set our back row in pass. A good option here could have been to, on the resolution Droll, they finger the Droll, then you chain Max C, but Yusuf didn't even care to want to finger the C. Now, what are our forms of disruptors? We have the Sanctifier, completely untargetable by card effects. It could reborn a monster from our graveyard, which could be the Albaz to fuse with either side of the field, and then go into another form of disruption. It's kind of a double disruption, plus the Call by the Grave being a disruption. We also have the Branded Red being a disruption. We also have the Fusion Duplication, copying the Branded Fusion being a form of disruption. We have at least 5 forms of disruption. Foxy Toon is going to get fingered here. Her effect is to, on resolution, discard a card from the hand, thankfully not by cost, thus we don't lose another card in our hand. Finger the Fool, Banisha negate, or more disrupt. We have Ogre Dance, sending itself to the graveyard to search for a Wagon. Wagon states that if your opponent activates a card that targets a punk, you could draw a card. And also in an open game state, if the opponent allows me to reach that state, I could search for a field spell. Are we allowing them to search the field spell as we fire off the Sanctifier into an Albaz, discard the card, fuse the opposing field to go into an Albion Branded Dragon? Albion on summon is going to further fuse into our Mirror Jade. We really don't want him to gain access to that field spell, huh? Banish, before you even activate. Now we have the Rising Scale, banishing from engrave to summon itself from the hand here on summon from the deck, a Punk Seaman. We're going to be using the Fusion Duplication plus Branded in Red, targeting the Quem to add back to the hand, then perform a Fusion Summon, as we're also copying the Branded Fusion. We're passing on the Fusion Summon, we're just adding her back, as we go into Lubellion to discard the Quem. Lubellion on summon, discard what we added, Serenir trigger, send from the deck here. As we further fuse this into a Star Source Dragon. Pop 2 cards on the field before the Punk Seaman even activates. We have already used up our normal summon. We have the Shirakusai in hand completely dead, perfectly using our disruptions. Yusuf dominating duel number 1. Emergency teleport, summon a Wagon onto the field, which will be protecting us from an imperm. Not really protecting us, but giving us a way to draw if they were to chain it to any of our effects. We do not have a Crimson Tier play in Grave. We have the ability to target a face-up card in the field or a set card and pop it. We can negate a monster. We can negate 2 special summons. We can negate 3 monster effects. We can negate further adding from the deck after adding 8 forms of disruption plus a Max C. Good luck, Yusuf. Start this off with an Aluber on summon, search our deck. Surely it will be negated by an Apollo USA. Negate. Now, Apollo has no battle protection. We could simply go to battle and knock off 2 negates. We're going to triple Tactics Talent, take control of the Jam Fever. Now we're down to 1 disruption, and also, isn't this now worse? Target a set card, or if you control a Punk, you can target a face-up card. Now it can only target a set card, so I don't even really want to count that as a form of disruption. The thing is 2,800 attack, suiciding into a Wave King Caesar. We lost everything. We had, how many disruptions? We now just have Droll. I'm not counting the surprise. Surprise, you're not a disruption anymore. What the heck happened? Huh? Wave King, Apollo, Jam Fever, surprise, plus Droll, 8 disruption, now down to 1? What the hell? Call by the Grave, finger the Max C. Add a draw on top of the Maxi getting fingered. You now cannot further add from the deck as our only and final form of disruption. Now, the surprise can pop a face-down card during the end phase after Aluber sets one, I guess. We are going to special summon Cartesia. At 5,400 life, we are in main phase 2. Let's fuse this up into a Grand Granole. Grand Granole on summon, send for the deck of Serenir. Serenir, send for the deck here, Retribution. As you further turn 2 bodies into an Anaconda. Anaconda, send the Brand of Fusion to fuse up into our Mirror Jade. And with that, we have Retribution, recycling, engrave our Banishment back to our hand, which could get popped by the surprise. Let's end phase add back with the Cartesia. As we surprise, you no longer have a Banishment. What are our forms of disruption? Against a Fool loss? Well, we do have Engraver engraved. We do have something. We can make plays. And the disruption against those plays will be, we could send from the extra deck to the graveyard a Rinbrum to then Reborn Albaz to fuse to the opponent's field. So it's a non-target banish plus a fuse plus whatever we fuse into. It's triple disruption. 1 Anaconda is triple disrupt. Let's Reborn the Engraver, trigger the Grand Granole, summon from the deck a Quem. Quem, send from the deck a Branded Sword, which if we had a Mercurier, it's 4 disruption now. Because we have that banished Mercurier come back to us. Non-target monster banish, and we're now down to triple disruption. Normal the Fool loss, and attack into the Mirror Jade. Very good play here. Yusuf, put Punk out of his misery. Come forth, blazing Cartesia's feet. As we have 6,000 damage, lethal. Nicely done. And what was great about this duel is they're both using the branded field. Good teamwork there. Thank you, Danny and Yusuf. Let's hop in another match. Mansion of the Dreadful Dolls, grabbing a Rogue Doll as we Condolence Puppet send from the deck our Bisque Doll. Now, by activating the Bisque Doll, what does it do? Your opponent cannot target the monsters with Impermanence. Imperm is now dead. Finally, we could use Ogre. Ogre, pop the field spell. Is this enough to thwart off lethal damage? Well, did we draw into Call by the Grave? Where did we get that from? What the heck? Did Dark Strings draw it? Did we? We didn't have it in our opening hand, did we? We did. Yes, we did. All right, Call by the Grave, completely shutting down Abdullah. First turn kill, over 8,000 damage was coming. Let's hop into game 2. Now, first turn kill deck should be crap going second, right? It actually is really good going second as long as they have the Condolence Puppet. This will, per monster on the field, send that much more Gimmick Puppets from the deck to the graveyard, which will give your Gimmick Puppets without the field spell targeting protection, and you can't chain to any of their activations as they wipe out your whole field and go for lethal. Let's see if that happens in game 2. Let's go. Senjin, summon from the back row, grabbing a Golem. I think we're in a spot where if we don't Ash the Condolence Puppet, we use a Dragster instead. The Droplet will negate the Dragster, and then we lose out on using Ash. Condolence breaks the board, Triple Tactics breaks the board, and Droplet breaks the board. Now, how do we use our board breakers? We're going to start off with the Condolence Puppet, which we have Ash to negate, Imperm negate a monster, Cluster pop a card, Dragster negate a spell and trap. We have Infinity negate anything. Tristaros can maybe banish up to 3 monsters from the field or grave. We have about 6 forms of disruption against triple board breaker. Let's see what happens. Condolence, this is what I feared. If we Dragster, we get Dropleted. If we Ash, then it gets negated. And we have 1, 2, 3 extra deck monsters. That's going to be 4 cards sent from the deck to the grave once the Droplet negates. Now, there are plays. If we Droplet negate and they send a monster, we can't Infinity negate, but we could use Cluster. Cluster could target a face-up card on the field. It could be our own. We could pop our own dragster to dodge the droplet. And if they over droplet, which would mean, let's say they send 4 cards to the graveyard, which they wouldn't do to negate 4 bodies, by using cluster to pop the dragster, the droplet would not negate anything because there would have to be 4 bodies on the field. Ooh, droplet, send 2 bodies, sending 3. 3 bodies. If we could turn this into 2 bodies on the field, we'd be able to dodge it. Now, we can't chain a monster. We can't chain a spell, but we do have cluster to pop the dragster to dodge the negate. Do we do it, mate? We don't. Uh-oh. Oh, it needs to reduce. Yeah, correction. Thank you very much. That'd be a very bad play. Thank you. This is similar to an Apollo USA. Reduce the level. If you reduce the level, which it has to be on the field to reduce the level, we don't actually get to dodge. But if we use Infinity instead, if Infinity dodge activated to negate the Condolence or the Ash or Infinity were the 2 cards needed to negate the Condolence. And now you're about to see why the Condolence is good once this resolves. Woo, scoop, that's how good it is. Yep, we know. That's why we would banish this. Your opponent cannot target Gimmick Puppets or card effects. And then we also have your opponent cannot activate cards in response to Gimmick Puppets activating. Yeah, straight scooping with a cluster and an imperm and an Ash. Like, you realize we had 3 disruptions still and we still scooped? That's how good those cards were. That's how important it was to negate the Condolence with either the Infinity plus Chain Cluster to pop it or Ash on the Condolence, where then if they had a called by, we could use Infinity or the Dragster to negate. Oh my Jesus, mate. Let's go. Begin. Lure into, we got Fool Loss. We're waiting for a guaranteed form of Disrupt with that Fool Loss play. We can, of course, Ash negate the Fool Loss, then we're left with a Droll and Lockbird for our follow-up way. What are our forms of Disrupt? Do we have a Crimson Tear in Graveyard plus a Requiem? We have the Fiendsmith in Paradise, which will be triggering off of a special summon to send a card from the field to the grave. And we have double special summon negate. We have a secondary banish. We have a Nibiru, the field. 5 forms of disruption. Good luck. We have 2 normal summons. That's not very good. We're going to grab a Poplar. Poplar triggering on being added. Wave King Caesar will negate and destroy. The Poplar will now trigger to put itself into the back row. 4 disruption left. The Ash would really want to send Poplar to summon an Oak. We don't have Oak. And we can't summon the Flameburge, unfortunately. So the better play, the play, is going to be summon a Fire King from the deck. First, we're going to set up the Fire King Sanctuary with the Fire King Island. We're going to use the Little Knight. This is a gamble. And it works because we don't know that they don't have a fire monster in hand. This will have to destroy the Lacrima Crimson Tear now, but we need it to destroy a fire to trigger the Garunix that we want to add from the deck to our hand. Nicely done. Banish away, and it worked. This is where Justinian's like, Keck freaking W, mate. Add a Garunix and it doesn't even summon. Lacrima during the end phase, reborn the sequence back onto the field. Boy, are we struggling. This is not good, unfortunately. We're going to be linking that right off into a Requiem. We could finger the Requiem as we do. Negate. Magnum Hunt is going to dodge the finger. Magnum Hunt, we've been seeing multiple times today. They try to finger our Requiem. We don't care. We're going to banish it or bounce it back on the deck to dodge the negate. Come forth, Crimson Tear. Now, this Garunix, is it a disruption if we destroy the Snake Eye Ash? Well, Garunix will summon, then it will destroy a Kieran. Then Kieran will summon what? We don't have another Fire King. Even if the Garunix were to trigger off of the destruction of the Ash, it's not even a disruption. And it has to be destroyed. We're gonna send. By sending, the Garunix does not trigger. 9,900 damage. The Wave King Caesar also could have negated the summon of the Garunix even within the damage step. Lethal damage. All right, Decade, I'm not convinced on Oakless Snake Eye Fire King. It's just game 1. Chill. Let's see what happens. Funky's going to get funky in game 2. Bonfire, adding a Snake Eye Ash. We do have Valor. Great. Now, Valor and Imperm on Ash is incredible. Now, if they're playing Snake Eye Fire King, the Kirin could dodge the Valor or Impermanence. Attempt to negate the Snake Eye Ash. And this is one of the immense benefits of playing Snake Eye Fire King, having that additional hand trap resilience of the Kirin. Pop the Ash, dodge it, trigger, still get the resolution of the Ash to trigger the Poplar being added to our hand. Poplar come forth. There's no more forms of disruption here. Let's speed this up. The Desiree can negate a spell or trap card. The Masquerena could double banish a Little Knight. We have Skyburn, which could pop a card on the field. We have Drone Lockbird to disallow adding from the deck after they add through, let's say, the effect of Senjin. We have the Promethean Princess, which will pop on special summon. We have the Amble Whale, when destroyed, will trigger the effect of the Garunix and then pop a card in the field with the Kirin. Kirin will reborn the Arvata for a monster negate. If we pop again, the Amble Whale is going to be triggering to pop a card in the field non-targeting. And if we link off with the Desiree, that will be a 10th form of disruption to send a card from the field to the grave. The ceiling is about 10 disruptions. Good luck. Onyx head back. 5. Rebellion is right away going to turn on that Droll. We can't use Tract, can't add with Senjin. We could still summon though. Golem and Senjin can be summoned. That's a scoop, mate. I'm out of here. This is what I dislike about Droll. I feel that good players know how to bait out their lesser plays to eat up hand traps like Ash. But if you bait out an Ash with a lesser play, then you get Drolled. That then means you should have made your main play. But more people are playing Ash than Droll, so it's still correct to play around Ash than to play into a Droll. It just really is unfortunate. We're going to start this off with the Bestial Rebellion, searching our deck for a Magnum Hut. As we set up our Regained already in our opening hand, Magnum Hut, banish away our Rebellion into a Maxi. Now, if there was a body on the field, this is where you would chain Jerusalem to the Maxi to banish the card that you're targeting at Magnum Hut so they don't draw for the Maxi. Regain is going to trigger, draw a card by returning back to the Rebellion. Magnum Hut, search for another Bestial in the end phase. While normally the Bestials are not good against Fire King, this is Fiendsmith Fire King. Lacrima Crimson Tear, send from the deck to the grave here, Fiendsmith in Paradise, as we now have Masquerena. Despite getting hit by the Max C, we still have a decent amount of disruptions. Now, before the end of the main phase, we're going to Kirin, pop Garunix, summon itself onto the field. The Garunix will now be triggering, as during the next standby phase, it's going to special summon and then destroy all other monsters on the field, which will really mess up the Masquerena. Without the Garunix triggering here, we had Masquerena to link off into a Little Knight for double banish, which is only activatable within the main phase. We have Imperm negate a monster. We have Baldrake and Jerusalem banish, which we can count as 2 forms of disruption, plus the Baldrake tribute off a monster to banish something from the extra deck, about 6. Jerusalem secondary effects, send a special summon to the graveyard, probably not going to be a form of disruption, but if we want to truly look at the ceiling of disruption, we could say we have 7 disruption here. But the Garunix is going to be messing up at least 2 of those disruptions by standby phase wiping the Masquerena or the Imperm negating. Negate with no way to dodge it. Make Kirin's only activatable in the main phase if we had one in hand. We have 6 disruptions left. Within the standby phase, we're going to banish for our Jerusalem, our Magnum Hunt, trigger and regain to return back the Magnum Hunt to draw into a Veiler, putting us back at 7 forms of disruption. If they are activating Masquerena in the main phase, you have to understand that the opponent did something. You do not have player priority to do something on your opponent's main phase unless they perform an action of setting a card, activating a card, or the action was, I want to end my main phase, meaning they probably want to battle over Masquerena, so we have to do the Masquerena play right here, right now. Little Knight it away. And you can also, this was standby phase where we did the other effects, you could also, in response to the resolution of a card, you could chain a Quicklit play effect. We're going to trigger the Druid Swarm, which did end up being a form of disruption, sending Garunix without destroying it, and banishing away the Kirin. Nicely done. We're going to grab a Snake Eye Ash, We still have the secondary effect of the Little Knight to banish. We have Regain triggering to reborn the Jerusalem, which Chainlink blocks your Little Knight. You could not Regained and Little Knight in the same chain here in response to your opponent's summoning. Veiler negates. Reborn the Jerusalem mate. Still have Baldrake ready. Hoping for them to go into the Fiendsmith plays. Send for Diabostar. The Linkuriboh. As the Little Knight's going to chain banish away the Diabostar, setting a card from the deck. We already have Original Sinful in our hand. As the Diabostar sets up a Wanted Seeker into the back row. Let's activate the Fire King Sanctuary. We now have our Fire King Island. Pop in the Volcanics, searching for Garunix. Ideally, we'd have Ash here. Obviously, no Ash in sight, as the Garunix triggers to summon itself onto the field. Pop from the deck of Kirin. This is a non-target pop. It can take out the Regained or the Jerusalem without targeting. Reborning Volcanics, say goodbye to the Regained. Volcanics is going to pop the Garunix, searching for a Ponix, trigger the Ponix, summon itself onto the field. Ponix is going to, on summon, trigger the Fiendsmith in Paradise to send a Desiree to send a card from the field to the grave. Now, if we read the Fire King Island, it states that if this face-up card is sent to the graveyard or banish, destroy all monsters you control. But we have the Fire King Sanctuary, which states if a card in the field zone would be destroyed, you could destroy a fire monster instead. Now, the Desiree is going to potentially send it, not destroy it, which would then wipe away the entire field. Do we do that? Send the Desiree. Desiree targets the field spell. Boom. Exactly what I said happened. Wipe away the monsters. We're going to follow up Original Sinful. Summon from the deck a Ponix. Set the Skyburn. Reborn back onto the field Diabostar that was banished off the Little Knight. We're going to banish the Linkuriboh with our Baldrake. Now, what are our forms of disruption here? This is deceptively just a Skyburn pop, and that's it, right? Well, by Skyburn popping any card in the field, that will... Little Knight could stop the play. That's going to be devastating. What is very important to note here is the Garunix needs to trigger off of a fire monster being destroyed, which would be the Skyburn pop and the Ponix, which would then pop from the deck of Kirin, which would then non-target pop a card in the field. At least two forms of disruption here. But if we Little Knight banish away the Ponix in response to the Skyburn, this states that target an equal number of Fire Kings, destroy them. So even if we chain banish the Ponix, it will still destroy another card in the field, but we really need Ponix to be destroyed to trigger the Garunix. No! This was the counter. Wasn't this public knowledge? We searched for Skyburn. We need Skyburn to trigger the Garunix. If we just held Little Knight, there was nothing Funky could do, right? Little Knight was checkmate against 2 disruption. It stops the, kind of mitigates the Skyburn in a way. I mean, Skyburn still goes through, but we stopped the Garunix from being summoned. Uh-oh. By preemptively Little Knighting to the Ponix triggering engrave just to add back to the hand, we now get to trigger our Garunix. Add the Ponix, trigger the Garunix engrave, pop a Kirin from the deck. Now, thankfully, we don't have an Arvata engrave to be another form of disruption. Ponix is going to trigger off of the monster being destroyed. Come forth Ponix, and then Kirin, reborn the Garunix, non-target, wipe away the Little Knight. We should still be okay, right? Moon of the Closed Heaven, trigger the Jerusalem, send, do not destroy. Let's further link this up into a Requiem. Requiem to jump off, some for the deck, Crimson Tear, send from the deck here, Engraver, reborn, returning back the Desiree. Requiem equip onto the Crimson Tear, send a monster here, goodbye to the Garunix, it will not be reborning during the next turn. Sequence will now be fusing the graveyard, 2 bodies, plus the Engraver to go into the Desiree. Desiree and Sequence will be making a Gnumday to trigger the Desiree to send another card from the field to the graveyard. We're going to send away the Diabostar, which triggers now, and we're going to chain Wanted Seeker. Wanted Seeker can add from the deck or graveyard a Diabostar, as the Diabostar engrave reborns itself by sending that same Wanted Seeker to the graveyard, which further triggers to set a card from the deck if we even have one. We did not. To battle, take out the Ponix, Gnumday, equip the Desiree, which will be boosted up to 4,600 attack. Say goodbye to the Diabostar. As we main phase 2, send the 2 bodies here for a Princess. What did we do here? Well, The Ignumde could be reborn with the Crimson Tear to then further reborn the Desiree. That's going to be our ability to spell and trap card negate, or I should say, negate anything. And then we have Impermanence to further negate. So you have at least 2 forms of disruption. Onyx, add back. Okay. I don't know what... Was there a reason to get this in graveyard? I guess if we were fearful of this Garunix coming back, which we know it was not destroyed, so it's not coming back. Poplar being added, trigger, summon itself onto the field here. Nothing to search our deck. We're going to draw a card. We have Volcanics, which we're going to Imperm negate. There is no follow-up play of the Kieran to dodge the Impermanence. Negate. We're going to send from our hand to summon a Diablo Star. Diablo Star is activating. The Princess does not draw off of that. It wasn't to activate an effect. As we now go into Moon of the Closed Heaven, trigger the Poplar, equip a Kieran into the back row, further going into a Requiem. We're going to now, this is the moment, we're going to reborn the Ignumde to then go into the Desiree as Funky chains Requiem to summon for the deck. Come forth, Ignumde, as the Crimson Tear of our own sends an Engraver here. An issue is the Desiree can be targeted by the Engraver sending it to the graveyard. Now, if you target the Ignumde is going to chain to being targeted to reborn the Desiree. What do we do? Engraver is here, equip, do not summon Desiree early. We're going to be forcing, not even forcing the summon of the Desiree yet, as we now go into the sequence. We are going to, before it could potentially go into a way to negate us, which Desiree can negate us, Apollo can negate us, the Wave King Caesar can negate us. So let's do this. Desiree is here, as the Desiree will now non-target negate the Fiendsmith sequence. Negate, negate, negate. We can follow up Original Sinful if we even have another body to summon for the deck as we further go into a Promethean Princess. Promethean Princess, reborn the Snake Eye Ash. On summon is not going to search for anything as we're out of Snake Eye cards to search. We're going to send our Kieran plus the Ash to summon a Flameburst. The Engraved Princess will be pushed into the back row as we take out the Desiree. Desiree can now trigger when sent to the grave to send a card from the field to the grave. We're going to send the Promethean Princess 3,000 damage to the face. Main phase 2, end the turn. We have a lot of forms of disruption here. The Promethean Princess could pop the Flameburst on a special summon a monster to then pop an opposing monster, which will trigger the Garunix to summon and pop a Kieran to then pop another card in the field non-targeting. Now the question is, do we have another Kieran in the deck? 1 Kieran in the grave, 2 Kieran in the grave. There should be a 3rd in the deck. Wait, the 3rd one's banished. There's no Kieran in the deck to even get popping with. So we should pretty much just have Promethean Princess as our form of disruption, but Justinian doesn't even have plays. No Engraver follow-up. By making the Desiree, it forced us to return back our follow-up forms of plays. Let's Magnum Hunt, banish away the opposing Engraver, attempting to summon. That will trigger the Promethean Princess. Magnum Hunt will be further activated to search for a dragon in the end phase. Come forth Promethean, trigger the Flameburst, trigger the Garunix. We're going to have 2 bodies plus Garunix plus reborn an additional monster from Engrave. And just like that, Oakless Snake Eye Fire King Fiendsmith defeating Fiendsmith control. Begin. We have the Deception Sinful plus the Hallowed Azamina activating right away to go into the Brasala Go to go into our deck. We're going to use Wanted Seeker to further draw an additional card here after setting our Call by the Grave. Draw into Max C, don't mind if I do. Let's talk about our disruptions. You may be thinking, where's the Flameburst? How do you summon the Masquerena? Well, if the opponent breathes, which is just summon in any way, that will trigger the Divine Temple to summon the Masquerena to then go into a double Little Knight Banish play. We then have Sylvia, which will be able to negate anything. We have the Apollo, which will be able to negate 3 monster effects. We have Call by the Grave to finger a tier. We have Ash negate an interaction in the deck. We have Promethean Princess on special summon to pop a card in the field. And then we have a 10th form of disruption through the secondary effect of Amble Whale. When a Link 3 or lower is destroyed, it will then destroy any card in the field non-targeting. 10 disruptions plus a Max C. Let's go. Max C in the draw phase, which we drew off the Wanted Seeker. Let's activate the Pressure Planet, searching for a Unicorn. Unicorn is here, giving us a Nibiru, so now we have 11 disruptions, which my toes up, believe me. Heartbeat is going to attempt to spin the Masquerena back. We're going to use Sylvia to negate the Heartbeat, which we're now at 10 disruption. Now we're at 10. 10 including the Nibiru. Masquerena is here. Unicorn trigger. Look at the extra deck. I don't think so. Now we're at 9 as the Apollo negates the Unicorn. Negate. We have Masquerena activating to link off with the Apollo, which had how many more negates on it? It had 2 more negates, so we go down to 7 negates. Little Knight is now banishing on someone. We're now down to 6 forms of disruption. Scream plus our Rhino Heart. Scream's going to chain link block the Rhino Heart from, let's say, an Apollo USA. And also from an Ash Blossom would be a decent negate here on the Rhino Heart. Tier Cash is going to mill additionally 2 more cards of the Call by the Grave. Fingers the Tier Cash. Not today, now down to 5 forms of disruption. All right, to battle we go. Take out the Little Knight, we lost the secondary banish. We're gonna Tier Limit Grief. Ash, negate the Grief. Not today. Nibiru, Promethean, and Amblewell secondary effect. With 3 more disruptions left, the secondary effect of Amblewell probably would have not triggered consistently. We now have the Hollow Nezamina return back to Sylvia and Grave to add back to our hand. Flip up our Deception Sinful. Does Maybach even have anything? On the summon of a monster, that will trigger the Tier Limit Scream to mill 3. Randomly into a fusion. Right here, right now, this is it. Do we win the gamble? Tier, no, that's not it. That's not the right card. Rhino can't reborn because we don't have a tier in hand. In the TCG, you could cheat here. What you would do is you would Rhino Heart Chainlink 1, Sulik Chainlink 2, and then whatever you add with the Sulik, discard with the Rhino, and as you pretend that the Mudora is a tier limit, and the opponent's just going to be like, all right, that seemed legal. Take out the Rhino. 3100s to the face. Deception back in the end phase. We have Maxi, Nibiru. We still have the Promethean plus the Amble Whale secondary effect. So it's about triple disruption here. Maxi again. Maybach, I'm so sorry, mate. What is going on? As we tier Sharon, discard Mudora. Mudora can deal with the Promethean Princess Engrave. We could bounce it back, spin it back into the extra deck as it may want to be triggering right now, possibly. Let's find out. Tier Scream and the Meta Noise is triggering. We're not going to use our Promethean Princess. Let's add back the Rhino Heart. We have not committed to a normal summon yet. Randomly mill 3 into a Hovness plus an Engraver. We have Scream triggering to search for a trap from the deck. Druin and Ash. Yeah, that's pretty good, huh? Let's fuse the Graveyard into our tier Kit Cal here, which ideally you use an Imperm or Veiler on. We're going to be adding from the deck a Hovness. To battle we go. Take out the Rasala Go. Rasala Go, when destroyed by battle, will be triggering a search for a Deception Sinful. What are these Nibirus? Nibiru no good or what? Now, Crime will be able to negate anything, whatever we want, but can it negate a Hollow Nezamina activating Graveyard? It can't, but I just said it negates anything. It's an Omni negate, it negates almost everything. It can negate a Spell and Trap card, not a Spell and Trap card effect. So if the Spell and Trap card's already face up or it's activating Engrave, it cannot negate that. So can it negate Deception? Of course it can, but not the secondary effect attributing a monster to search your deck. You cannot negate that with the Crime. You understand? Grab the Hollow Nezamina, the activation of Hollow. This is what we can negate. This is what we can negate. We're holding. I'm not saying we should, it's we can. We can negate any monster we want. Tier Scream, mill 3, whiffed on the fusion play. We also have Hovness. If they activate a monster effect, we could chain the Hovness to summon in mill 3. Right now. We know Hovness is in the hand, and we know Hovness only is activatable in response to a monster effect on the field. So what you would do is you would put the Diablo Star on Chainlink 1, Poplar on Chainlink 2, thus you can't chain Hovness here. But maybe Kang is baiting the Hovness. We also could have ashed the Hovness, which would stop the summon. It milled a Tier Rhino. Tier Rhino can... except the tier Rhino discard. So it's not even triggerable because we only have Rhinos in the hand. Mudora the Explorer is going to bounce back 3 cards in the graveyard back into the deck or hand, into the deck that is. We're going to use the tier Crime to negate the Sylvia, attempting to negate the Mudora. Say goodbye to the Flameburge and Promethean Princess. Back into the deck you go. We still get popped though, it does not stop the destruction effect. Amble Whale will trigger to reborn the Nightmare Phoenix, which does not trigger to pop a back row on summon, only on Link Summon. The tier Kit Cal is going to be negated on being able to mill 5. Negate. And this is because we're the non-turn player, so our trigger effects are on the higher chain link, thus not chain link blocked. Promethean Princess, which you returned back in my extra deck, will now be reborning the Snake Eye Ash. Ash is going to send Deception to summon from the deck a Flameburge. What do we even have, mate? We don't have anything. The tier Rhinos in the hand here unfortunately made it so the Rhino and Graveyard couldn't even trigger when randomly milled. Hovness pushed to the back row. Sharon pushed to the back row. Lethal damage. Snake, I mean, weren't there Melodious cards in your extra deck? No Melodious in sight, at least within game 1. Melodious Snake Eye taking a game 1 victory. We have Maxi, but called by for the Maxi. Let's add a Lure from the deck with Attract. Lurie's activation will be met with a Maxi. Let's call by the grave, Finger the Sea. And with that, Kang has no more disruptions in sight. As we Requiem this up, we still have our normal summon for the Rhino Heart to trigger a tier fusion here. Crimson Tear, sending Graver, return back the Lurie. Let's Tract, Fuse of the Field. 2 bodies for our Fiendsmith Lacrima. Lacrima on summon, reborn the Engraver. Will this be a Pilgrim Reaper? Yes, it will. Milling 5 cards for both players' decks. Mill 5, mill 5. Milled a tier Cash plus our Lurie here. And we're now going to be triggering the Sulliak and the Sharon after the tier Cash additionally milled 2 more cards. We're going to Fuse after searching for a Sharon. Holy sec! Didn't even have to perform our normal summon to know that we should scoop it up. 1 and 1, Maybach with that random mill 5. The initial mill 5 wasn't even that great. It was just the tier Cash to mill an additional 2, and then that additional 2 is what broke the duel. A Search plus Fusion Summon, no thank you. We are playing a 41 card deck, but that does not mean we play a lot of hand traps in our tier limit deck. We possibly do not, beyond Maxi and just Ash. What are our disruptions? We can Little Knight double banish a monster, or any card that is, and we have the Amble Whale, which will be popped by the Promethean Princess on a special summon. And then if a Link 3 or lower is destroyed in any way whatsoever, that will trigger the secondary effect of the Amble Whale to pop a card in the field non-targeting. That's 4 forms of disruption, plus the Sylvia being able to negate anything. That's 5 disruption plus a Maxi. We're going to use the Flameburge early in the draw phase to summon our back row Masquerina. And maybe you'd be thinking this plays into an impermanence, but the Divine Temple could further summon the Masquerina from the back row if the Flameburge were to be negated. Also, Sylvia could negate if you really wanted to. I don't think we would. 5 Disrupt. Let's activate the tier limit. Scream. Let's Masquerina. Ooh, this is crazy. We're going to Masquerina in response to the Scream because we don't want them to normal summon, then trigger the Scream to mill 3, but we have another Scream. So we're going to completely waste away our Little Knight summon play. That's a big Little Knight. What the heck? That's 4 cards for Little Knight. Into an Apollo USA instead. 4. Monster negate. Now Scream counters Apollo. If I summon Rhino Heart, you can't negate Rhino with Apollo because I'll chain link block with the Scream. Quad. So now instead of our initial disruptions, which was 5, as we used plus Maxi, we instead have 4 plus Apollo plus Sylvia plus Amble Whale. It now jumped up to 7. Let's freaking go. Let's search for a Rhino Heart. Rhino Heart, again, I said we'd be blocking the Apollo with the Scream. You cannot negate me. And let's randomly mill 3. Random 3, that's not that great. We're gonna send a tier Cash to mill an additional 2. We're gonna chain link block with the Meta Noise so the tier Cash does not get negated by the Apollo. The Apollo now lost a negate because of the Scream reducing its attack. We're now down to 6 disruptions. Havnis negated with Apollo. Now, if you chain tier cash to an Apollo negate, Apollo can't negate again in the same chain. Let's summon to mill an additional 3, but we can get negated on the mill 3. We negated. We're now going to Apollo, negate the tier cash. Negate. We have already used up our normal summon. We still have the effect of Sharon. Let's battle take out the Sylvia. Battle take out the Apollo. Now, a problem with Kang's turn 1 is he did not make a Linkuriboh within his turn 1 plays, which would, wait, he doesn't even play Linkuriboh in his deck. What the heck? Which would have protected either the Sylvia or the Apollo. Now we're left with just a Promethean play and maybe triggering the Amble Whale, maybe 2 disruption. Sharon send Rhino to mill 3, trigger the Rhino to send the Scream from in hand. We're gonna trigger the Divine Temple to reborn our back row Snake Eye Diablo Star. Come forth. Rhino is here, and I mean, we're taking Maxi challenge, right? We gotta win this turn. What are we thinking? Nope, we're ending our turn. What did we end on? We ended on a Celiac Monster Negate, which also triggers a fusion into a form of disruption, about 2 forms of disrupt, plus the Fairy Tale Snow, which, how'd you get in there, mate? You could flip a monster on the field face down. You can maybe put the Snow back in the graveyard with the Celiac, but then we're not triggering a fusion. We're about 3 disruptions. The Mudora, do we want to count Mudora as a disruption? If we want to be immensely generous, and maybe this will be disruptive, we'll count the Mudora shuffling a card back in the deck. 4 forms of disrupt, I would say, is the ceiling here. Let's see if it's good enough to stop Snake Eye. Nightmare Phoenix will force out the early activation of Celiac. As we trigger the Poplar, flip up the, first trigger the Scream, and then we're gonna flip up the Celiac. So we lose our Monster Negate, using it early onto the Snake Eye Ash, which could be reborn back with a Promethean if we really want the effect. We're now gonna trigger the Fusion. Let's mill 3, another Sharon as we sent the Sharon. And this Fusion should be a form of disruption. The Celiac will now be searching our deck maybe for a Havnis. Or a Rhino here, sure. I'm not sure if we have Havnis still in the deck. We're gonna go into Kaleido Heart. On summon, we're gonna spin a card in the field back into the deck. Now we're gonna be triggering the Promethean Princess to pop the Kaleido, which now gives us another form of disruption. So we went from 3 disruption to 2 disruption back to 3 because the Kaleido will now reborn and send a Havnis from the deck to the grave. Getting hit by a freaking Maxi Maybach. What the heck, mate? Back-to-back Maxi you gotta play through. Come forth, Kaleido. Send from the deck Havnis. And Havnis will now be fusing into getting fingered. Shite. So we lost that disruption. We still have the Mudora, Shuffle, and the Fairy Tale Snow. 2 disruptions left. If we activated Mudora here, would it stop the summon of Snake Eye Diablo Star? We have to read that. You're gonna target a fire monster, place it into the back row, and if you do special summon, we could have stopped the summon with Mudora. I'm not saying we should have, but we could have. This doesn't target. That's pretty damn annoying, right? Well, how do we know what to shuffle back with Mudora? Well, we assume the fire monster that they would want to summon. Let's just see what they shuffle back. We're gonna target the Ash, the Poplar, and the Flameburge. Is there any other fire monster relevant to summon after that shuffle back? With our non-target reborn, we have an Amble Whale on the field here. We still have Fairy Tale Snow. We're gonna make our Phoenix, Deception Sinful, Holodeck of Mina is gonna reveal the Sylvia. Sylvia now can negate the effect of trying to summon the Fairy Tale Snow, or you could just negate it activating on the field when it attempts to flip a monster face down. We're gonna send Nibiru to summon our Diablo Star. Diablo Star setting up into the back row, our Deception Sinful. We're gonna be linking off 2 bodies into a Little Knight play on summon, banish away a card in the field or in the grave, say goodbye to the Kaleido Heart. The battle we go, take out the tier cash. Not big enough to take out the Rhino Heart thanks to the Scream, reducing the opposing field by 500. I have the Deception setting up into the back row. We have Fairy Tale Snow activating by banishing 7 cards from the graveyard. We have Sylvia not negating the on-field effect of Snow, but the reborn effect instead. Negate. Now, What are our forms of disrupt? We have a secondary banish, we have the Amberwell secondary pop, and we have the Promethean Princess, which will be able to pop on special summon. We could finger a card engrave. The Amberwell, if we have a Masquerena, could reborn, but then Masquerena, what's going to even go into? And to even trigger the Amberwell reborn Masquerena, it would be a Promethean Princess, which would stop the Amberwell from even summoning the Masquerena. Thus, it's not even a form of disruption. I'd say we're at about 4 disruption. 3 to 4. Call with the Grave, finger the Engraver. This is where we can Mudora, bounce it back, dodge the negate, still grab the Tract. We don't have that because we used it in response to the Promethean. Rhino Heart on summon, chain the Scream. We can wait with the Little Knight. We chain link blocked our Little Knight with the Divine Temple, reborning from our back row in Ash Blossom. Sure. Mill 3, Engraver here, send from the deck, Sharon. Let's fuse it up into a tier Kit Cow. We could use Little Knight to chain banish the Kit Cow off the field. It's exactly what we're doing, as the Kit Cow is searching or sending a tier. What is that tier? Going to be the Heartbeat. Heartbeat, when sent to the grave, is going to add back the in-grave Sulliek. We're already planning for the next turn. End our turn, we have the Sulliek, which will be able to negate a monster on the field, plus trigger mill 5, possibly into another form of disruption. We have Scream, which could mill an additional 3. It's about 2 to, I guess we'll count the Snow also. 3 disruption we have here. Holiday Azamina, sending the Deception Sinful. Are we at a stalemate? What's going on? We're just going back and forth. Can someone end the duel? It's already at turn 5. Scream, mill 3. Do we have a Requiem in Graveyard with the Crimson Tear? We do not. We're going to use the Deception Sinful plus the Wanted Seeker, searching for the Diablo Star. We're going to be returning a card back that is banished to draw a card. To battle we go. Say goodbye to the Tier Rhino. Sulliek on the other attack. We're going to target the Little Knight for a negate. Chain banish away the Kit Cow. Sulliek does not send unless it negates. It has to negate, then it sends. We're going to follow up Bonfire in main phase 2, grabbing a Snake Eye Ash. Ash on summon is going to search our deck for a Poplar. Poplar trigger, summon itself, as we're going to use the Fairy Tale Snow, banish 7 cards from our graveyard. What do we even have left to banish after that? We still have Engraver in Crimson Tear here. Grabbing the original Sinful from the deck, triggering Promethean Princess on the Fairy Tale Snow summon. Snow on summon's going to flip down the Poplar. Lip it, bop it, pop it, reborn, Promethean Princess, end the turn, Kit Cow back in the field with the effect of Sulliek. We blocked the Little Knight from being summonable back on the field, which was continually being changed to the Sulliek to banish away the Kit Cow to ensure that it does not mill 5 cards during the next turn. Promethean on the field ensures that it is not a form of disruption. What is going on? Fenrir can't be summoned here. Tier Kit Cow is going to send itself to the graveyard to reborn a Rhino. That's going to trigger the Rhino, the Scream, the Kit Cow. We're going to mill 5 plus 3, 8 plus an additional card from the deck. We only have 13 cards left in the deck. Deception's going to burn for 1,500 damage. What the? One more burn with Deception and it's over. Mill 3, mill 5, send the Sharon. We have Crime triggering to return the Kaleido Heart back to the extra deck. We're going to tier cash, mill an additional 2 with only 4 cards left in the deck. We now have Keldo can return cards from either player's graveyard back in the deck. Using this up into our much needed Kaleido Heart. On summon, target a card in the field to spin it back. As the Engraver reborns, returning back the Crimson Tear. With the no banlist tournament happening on this Wednesday, is Tierlament going to be playing with Fiendsmith? Requiem is here to tribute off to someone for the deck, a Crimson Tear. Crimson Tear, send a track tier. We're gonna link this off into a sequence. Sequence ready to fuse with the graveyard. 2 bodies to come forth and summon our Fiendsmith Lacrima. We have Lacrima reducing them by 600, Scream reducing them by 500, a full field 1100 attack reduce, as we now go into the Ignumde. Sequence is going to be equipping onto the Engraver. Engraver sends Sequence to send the Rosala Go to the graveyard. To battle we go. We're going to be reborning the Fiendsmith Lacrima, taking out the Promethean Princess, because we didn't want Promethean to trigger after sending it to the graveyard off of the attack. We're going to Fiendsmith Lacrima, take out the Poplar, put itself into the back row. Not big enough to take out the Ash. Did we mess up our attacks here? Did Ignumde was supposed to attack into the face down, Kaleido into the Apollo, the Ash that is. I don't think we had enough for lethal, right? Did we have Sulliek? We still had Sulliek activatable, right? Could Sulliek have sent attack with Kaleido, send Kaleido, reborn Kaleido, attack again? Huh? I feel like we had lethal. I'd have to rewatch that. I think we possibly had lethal damage. They wanted piercing, and yeah, don't we have piercing? The equipped monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. 4,200 piercing battle damage plus Lacrima burn for 1,200. I'm not sure if we already did that yet. It did? Well, so we already did 4,000 damage, sure. But I think we could have full cleared and maybe had game. Someone calculate it. Did we have game? The Deception Sinful is deceptively messing up the life point totals. His life was over 8,000, right? He had 9.5K. 900 life. Now, let's read this to ensure we don't trigger this by accident. A monster is sent to your opponent's graveyard, and you control an Azamina monster. You now win the duel. Well, that's set up right now. Okay. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Original Sinful, send field spell, summon for the deck of Snake Eye Ash. Ash send Poplar to summon from the deck Flame Burge. He had 5 seconds. Okay. His timer was low. Buried Tail, Snow, banish 7 cards, reborn from Engrave. Yeah, we missed an Ignumde attack. We missed a Kaleido Heart reborn. Promethean Princess. This ooh, he knows. By flipping down the Sylvia, it ensures the Deception does not burn for game. Oh boy. Now you don't control an Azamina. Now you don't burn for game. 1,500 damage. Reborning the Promethean Princess, trigger the Scream, mill 3, 1 card left in our deck. We still have the Keldo, right? We already used Keldo, actually. We're going to be using the Sulliek. Negate the Flame Burst. Did he time out? I think he timed out. Time limit victory. When tier limit was at tier 0, a lot of people wanted us to increase the timer of duels because of how complex the back and forths were. Tier limit can very easily eat away at your timer with the immense amount of different plays we had at our disposal. 2-1 victory. Begin. E-teleport, summon for the deck into a Maxi, Ash Blossom, negate, not today, mate with no further disruption in our hand. Let's see what Punk ends on. DD Crow banished the graveyard. You maxed me, I maxed you. You're gonna have to finger my C. And what we could do with that is Dragite, negate your Call by the Grave Finger. Ain't no way. So we have DD Crow, negate a spell and trap card, triple monster negate again on the Jam Fever. We're gonna finger a card in the grave in addition to the DD Crow, plus use Surprise to pop a card in the field. 7 disruption plus the max C. Let's go. Finger the C. DD Crow. No, man. You didn't try to DD Crow your own C. You didn't do that. That didn't happen. Edit that out. All right, we're gonna chain Max C. Negate, we're banishing Max C. I don't know what happened there. Finger the C, okay. Now, let's carry back on what we're doing. We have a finger, a pop, triple negate, monster negate, another spell and trap card negate. Let's finger the goblin. There we go. Not today, get that goblin out of here. Because we were threatening the Call by the Grave, we had to use it before it gets popped. We're gonna use the Surprise. So let's read this. You're going to non-target destroy a Memento you control, and only if you successfully destroy a Memento do you get to summon from the deck an Anguish. Well, unfortunately, we already used up our normal summon, and if we have nothing to destroy, we then don't summon anything. Completely blowing us out. Let's hop into game number 2. Summon Ash in the breakout? You know they don't have Darkblade, you know they don't have Goblin, you know they don't have Memento Mace, you know they don't have Anguish. And would you really normal summon a hand trap if you had the horse in your hand? You probably would play the horse first, so you can identify and know that they process through elimination. They don't have at least 10 cards in their freaking hand. Yeah. Thank you. Bug B with that negate, mate. Ain't no way. Negate. Set Super Poly and pass. You have triple, well, it's 2 disruption. We can only use 2 of the 3 cards here. We have the Extreme Session. Let's summon for the deck, Punk Seaman. Search our deck for the Ogre Dance. Trigger the field spell. Draw a card here. We're going to be Ogre Dancing, grabbing the Wagon, as we now turn the 2 bodies into my favorite monster. Fiendsmith, Requiem off of the moon. We're going to jump off the field into an Ash Blossom negate. I was confused. Why is the field spell not triggering off of this clearly paying life point? It's because it's a sea freaking serpent. What the heck? All the punks are psychic apparently besides this one, and this only triggers off of a psychic paying life points to draw a card. Let's pay the life, summon the Shirakusai, 2400 to the face, and let's now pass. During your turn, Shirakusai confused. During the opponent's turn, it instead synchros, and it will synchro into the Amazing Dragon, which will bounce multiple cards in the field back to the hand. Plus we have Impermanence and the surprise pop a card in the field, triple disruption, and maybe we'll draw into a hand trap with the field spell. Memento Horse. Let's pop the Super Poly. Okay, sure. Maybe we think it's an Impermanence, and they would have to Imperm early, then we'll chain to the Imperm going into the Amazing Dragon, bouncing back the horse. That's the mindset I was thinking is happening here. Activate the horse, Imperm, negate the horse. Normal DD Crow into Fiendsmith. We don't play Fiendsmith. We could go into Typhon or Anaconda. Well, Typhon's the play. Typhon stops the Amazing Dragon. Amazing Dragon at 3000 attack would not be able to bounce back. Let's turn back the Shirakusai. As if they draw into any punk, it's over. Shirakusai fuses that punk. GG. Nibiru. Okay. Wow. Did not immediately lose after summoning a Typhon. The horse can tribute summon here. Horse is going to be popping itself, send 2 cards in the deck to the grave, trigger the Gaddock to reborn itself, add the Sleepy and grave back to the hand. We were at 2 summons before that. Nibiru wipes away the entire field. Sleepy on summon will be triggering a fusion summon into our 4th summon. 1 more summon and it is over as we add 2 cards, trigger the effect to summon, and now the Nibiru is ready. But when do we Nibiru? What do we fear from the extra deck that could stop a Nibiru? What could stop a Nibiru is literally nothing in his extra deck. Nada. Nothing. We are going to. Well, you know, it does not stop Nibiru, but it mitigates Nibiru. By mitigating the Nibiru, you're getting the Little Knight out early to banish away the creation until the end phase to dodge Nibiru. Now Nibiru doesn't even get summoned. Stuck in the hand, end phase, come back. What are our forms of disruption here? We could chain banish a monster. We could DD Crow banish in the grave. Can combined creation be a form of disruption here? It's not. Double disrupt. Bro, what the heck? Why don't you have another punk? No other punk. If you had one other punk, well, the Little Knight would then chain banish you, trying to fuse with that punk. Let's Sprite Elf, reborn the Little Knight. What really sucks here is we know there's Nibiru. We don't know there's 2 Nibirus, but now 1 at least is definitively a brick. Lethal damage. Bug B, you got unlucky, man. You were supposed to win that duel. I don't know what happened. Besides, you bricked. You didn't draw well after. What the heck? Okay, 1-1. Begin. Engraver, searching our deck here. We have Ash Blossom ready for the Fiendsmith Tract or the Requiem Summon. As maybe we'll just try to farm them with the Max C. Maybe Max C will be good enough, but then we find out our C gets fingered. Now, Foxy Tune, let's read that. Foxy Tune is you have to send any card from your hands to the graveyard. It does not require a monster, thus it will be activatable after the Fiendsmith shenanigans. We have Masquerena into a double Little Knight Banish. Disruption, we have the Jam Fever, Monster Negate. We have Surprise, pop a card in the field, Mate. We have Nibiru Tribute off the field. And on top of that, we have triple Monster Negate with the Apollo USA Mate. Can we play through 8 Disruption? How many plays do we have? We have Anguish, which is a full combo. We have the Horse, which is a full combo. We have the Breakout, which is a full combo. So we have 3 full combos, but they still have 8 Disruption. Full combo Anguish, Negate. And it does get destroyed, so we have to chain the Breakout if we want to deal with it getting destroyed. Nope, okay. All right, let's follow up with the Horse. And now we have nothing to tribute with the Breakout, so our 3 full combo plays are now down to 2, and 2 of them just got disrupted. If we chained the Breakout, could we have won the duel? No, we still would have lost. This is with the ban list. The Golem is limited to 1. We're going to chain Maxi to the Senjin, summoning for the back row, as we have no form of negate for that Maxi Mate. What do we do after that draw 1 play? Normal the Sid Tree. We're going to keep on going, at least into a Baron to floor, then pass. Now, is the Cluster activatable? Cluster requires for you to have at least 1 Crystron card in your graveyard or banishment, which we do meet that requirement. In addition to our Baron to floor, we have double Disruption. Now, if I cluster you and then they finger me, what happens? Does cluster get popping if you get fingered in response to the cluster activation? This is where you'd want to understand is the existence of a Crystron is just enabling the activation, or is it required to properly resolve the effect? Well, if we read that, you have to shuffle, and only if you do you get to destroy. Thus, the Call of the Grave won't even work because it's still banished. Yeah, we straight up get to cluster no matter what. You'd have to shuffle it back in the deck. Finger does not protect it. Even if you got double finger. You have Anguish activating to search for the Memento Sleepy. We're going to Horse summon from the hand, and now we're going to get cluster popping. We're not going to wait for its activation, because we know that if we wait for its activation and they chain a Breakout or a Memento Fusion, they could pop whatever's newly summoned to still get the effect of the Horse to send many cards from the deck to the grave. Wipe away the Horse. Sleepy is only summonable because a Memento monster has been destroyed. Thus, we could special summon and on summon trigger a fusion summon. When do we Baron to floor? Sleepy activate. Fusing with the hand and field. On summon, we're going to pop a card we control. We're stopping them from searching for 2 cards. 2 monsters, that is. You can't search for a spell or trap with the Twin Dragon. We still get the effect when destroyed to Reborn the Horse, which you stopped us from activating, and now we're still activating. We're out of Disruption. That's it. They played through double Disruption like nothing, and they didn't even need Call by the Grave. To play through double Disruption, they literally just needed Sleepy. What the heck? Right? Anguish and Sleepy was play through 2 Disruption without needing Called By, didn't even need the Memento Fusion. Show me the way. No way we're doing that. No way we're summoning Anguish and then not activating. He activated. There we go. All right. Tristaros, summon for the deck. We're not going to Ash the Tristaros effect, which we could. Turning this into a Dragster spell and trap card negate. It does negate the activation. We're going to summon the Horse in the hand, chain Maxi to the Horse. We're going to Ash negate the Maxi. Negate. Now, what is good? You should have Fua'd first. Well, if you Fua, they chain Tristaros to the Fua, right? Gaddock is a great target for your Bestial or your DD Crow. You stop Reborn, you stop the ability to add back from Engrave. Nicely done. Now, normally Sleepy is what they'd be adding back. Unfortunately, already had it, as they now go into the Creation King. Creation King, send 3 cards from the deck or action next to the graveyard. We're going to banish search for our field spell. We can negate the activation of the field spell or attempt to wait for the end phase. Likely, we're not going to have a Dragster on the field by the time we are in the end phase. And if you do not reduce your level on the resolution, you do not negate. Thus, this is essentially a negate on your negate, mate. Pop it. No negate. We have Acheron triggering, reborning from the graveyard off of a Memento being destroyed. We'll also be drawing only per summon from the deck or extra deck. Acheron triggering, so we can now attack directly with our Creation King and Combined Creation, grabbing our Bone Party play. Let's trigger the effect of the Field Spell to Reborn from the graveyard. Let's trigger the effect of the Acheron to add back the Memento Fusion. Memento Fusion has not activated the effect of Fusion Summon yet, as we now grab our Combined Creation. Look at all this special summoning, and Fool Loss is doing nothing. Nada. 8,000 damage, direct attack over an endless amount of bodies on the field to block the attacks. Can't block. Swing right over. 2-0 victory. Let's activate the Wedju Temple. Wedju Temple into the Senjin plus a Golem into the back row. Senjin searching for another Senjin, as the Senjin's going to put itself in the back row and now summon our Doom Dragon play. Doom Dragon plus Senjin into the Zombie Vampire way. Get ready for the mill 8. Let's evaluate these mills, or not, because I'm going to negate. Now this is where we Elder, normal summon, and go into Fiendsmith. Probably not playing Fiendsmith. Surely. Oh, what? No. That's not a moon. Okay, that's a Little Knight. Ain't no way we go into Fiendsmith with Ritual Beast. We're gonna set Imperm. Little Knight has no other monster to banish to dodge the Nibiru. Thus, we just have Imperm plus Max C. They don't have a way to stop the Max C though. Still don't. Get ready. In response to the Sulfaneer trying to summon, hit them with the C. Now, LBF Max C has to decide for himself if he could lethal under Max C, or just make the most minimal play possible with at least one form of disruption, then pass. We keep on summoning. What are we doing? We had Tristaros. We're going to summon a Sulfador. Sulfador is going to send for the deck. Nothing is the Imperm. Negates. Now we're in a position where we may have no disruption at all as we end our turn. 1900 to the face. I mean, we do have Valor at least. This is why non-engine is so important. When you get Max or Fool Loss and you are a deck that's not good against those cards, if you have a bunch of hand traps, then it's not that big of a deal to just end your turn. Nemesis Flag, we need a banished card, or we could just normal summon it, searching for a Protos. Protos is going to banish 3 different attributes to come forth and summon Declaring Water. Crystron Waters would not be special summonable. We're going to call with the Grave Finger the Veiler. The Floodgate is here, mate, just like that. Water is illegal. The Protoss is in attack position against a Nibiru. We got to get rid of that Nibiru. What? We summon Protoss in attack and then pass? Are we good? Senjin is going to summon for the back row. Add a Golem. Golem in the back row. Doom Dragon push. Isn't this lethal damage? It's straight up lethal. Holy shite. We don't... I can't summon a Crystron. I'm still going to win. How? What? 10,000 damage. Oh my Jesus. Completely floodgated him out of being able to even summon a Crystron on the field, which was illegal to do. Unbelievable. Millennium already was hit by the ban list. That's it. This is post-ban list. Limited to 1 Golem. Golem into the back row. Come forth and summon, searching for the Wedju. Any non-link is forced into defense and will be negated if they activate. We have the Ulti Ray, which is a link, thus unaffected by our own Baguska. It states that it is going to, during the opponent's turn only, target a Ritual Beast card, which would be itself, and 1 card your opponent controls to chain banish them away. Plus we have Nibiru. Triple disruption plus a Max C. One of the disruption being a Baguska Floodgate. Foolish Burial sends Sulfador. Sulfaneer is going to discard the Thistfern here. Chain Max C. Oh my Jesus. Can we play through Max C? Probably not. We're going to summon the Sulfaneer, pop ourself, which does not get negated by the Baguska because it was not an activated effect on the field. Put you into defense. Bro, we going all the way to Little Knight? Okay. They only drew, what, 4 cards off of you being able to make a Little Knight? Good job. We got rid of Baguska. Can we deal with the Ulti Ray? Well, let's check the ruling on Ulti Ray. The ruling would be if I Little Knight chain to Ulti Ray trying to banish another card, does the Little Knight completely stop the Ulti Ray banishing my other card? Banish them. It does not have to banish both, thus Little Knight does not even stop it. Crap. We have Inclusion, which we're going to Ulti Ray banish the Inclusion. We're still going to use the Little Knight to chain banish, but the Inclusion will get banished. And then off of that, what do we have? Our normal summon has already been used. We can't summon Tristaros. We scooping. Scoop it up. Banishing Inclusion was incredible. It stopped the search. It stopped the ability to summon Sulfador. It stopped the ability to reborn a card from Engrave. Stopped all three of its effects. This Vern, Chain, Maxi, which this, look, it's at 2. It's at 2. What do we do? If this Vern was going to pop itself to summon a Tristaros, which is already a Copium turn 1 play, and we chose that, thus we didn't even bother ashing the Maxi. So we did have an out, we just didn't want to, we didn't care. Call by the Grave, finger their ash, negate. Now we're left with Nibiru. Just Nibiru. And if we Maxi against Nibiru, that is a pot of freaking greed. Draw 2, do we do that? Do we save the Maxi for the next turn? This is full combo. Elder and Canahawk, full combo being wham bam, thank you ma'am, lethal damage. But against a Nibiru, it does not stop. We're gonna make an Ulti Canahawk. There are spots where after 5 summons, we could set up an Ulti Gaia to negate the Nibiru, or even an Apollo USA. But we'll definitely have time to tribute off before they even do that. As you can see, we're already at 5 freaking summons. Canahawk, banish from the deck here. Link this off into the Ulti Kimu. I gotta flame on for this. This is wild. It's all coming down to this. Let's go, let's do it. Ulti Kimu, banish. Additional summon the Wen. Come forth. Rabangu being reborn off of the Wen. We're gonna banish and then get Nibiru'd into a Maxi, draw 2. We already used up our normal summon. Tribute. The field. Now what? Draw Droll. Draw Elder. Banish from the Grave, Diffusion, Contact into the Nochi, trigger the Tamer Lore to summon for the deck a Winda. We're going to return back the Nochi to summon onto the field Apelio. Apelio, but boost up the field plus 500. Further going into a Banshee. Banshee is going to give us the Protos play. Come to us, Nemesis Flag. Nemesis Flag, return a banished card back, and then search for the Protos, which will now activate to declare Light, possibly. By declaring Light, we wipe away the Nibiru, and then we just need 8,000 damage. We have 4,300 damage. Summon onto the field the Banshee, trigger the Cross Sheep, as we're now going to go into an Ulti Ray, which will return a banished card back and then perform an additional summon. Come to us, Apelio. Additional summon Apelio, but boost again. Plus 1,000 attack onto our monsters. Declare Light, 8,900 damage. Just like that, through the Nibiru. Lethal damage. Damn. Ritual Beast is back. Get the Blue Eyes White Dragon trash out of here. Start this off with Ascension, of course. We have no hand traps whatsoever from Pesci, but we have board breakers. We have Super Poly, which could break the board. Fusion Deployment into an Albaz could break the board without committing to a normal summon. Let's speed this up. Oh my Jesus, what do we have here? We have the Wave King Caesar, double special summon negate, Desiree negate anything on the field, and if sent to the grave with the Masquerena, we'll send a card in the field to the grave. We then have Masquerena into a double Little Knight banish. We have Crescendo, negate anything. We have Imperm, negate a monster on the field, and with 8 forms of disruption, do we have more? Do we have a way to summon the Orcust? We don't have the field spell, so we can't really quick effect the way to get it out, but 8 disruption, Omni negate. Let's go. Set Albaz, Super Poly, fuse away with the Wave King Caesar. Now we're down to from 8 disruption to 6. Battle phase, Masquerena dead. We lost out on the send effect, the double Little Knight. We're now down to 3 disruption. We're going to Imperm, negate the Mirror Jade. We're now down to 2 disruption. We have Crescendo and Desiree. That's it. Didn't I say we had 8 disruption? What the heck? Boy, did we break their fields. Aluber is here through the summon of the opening. On summon, the Desiree will non-target, negate. And now we just have Crescendo. Spell, trap card, or monster effect will result in the activation being negated and the card being banished. We're going to summon a Cartesia from the deck. What do we Crescendo? What is the way? Show me the play. Summon a Grand Grenoble. Do we want to negate and banish that? I think because it also banishes is even more so why this is a pretty good negate. Negate and banish. Now we got nothing. But that's all we needed. Branded was not able to push through our field. All is well. They're going to be triggering all their effects in main phase 3. Grab back the High Spirit and Cartesia, setting up with the banishment. Let's talk about our forms of disrupt. We have the branded banishment, the Mirror Jade, we activated this, and we also can't use the effect next turn, but it was negated, so we still have this effect, right? We impermed its non-target monster banish, so we still have that. We have Reborn, Fuse of the Field into a form of disruption. We have at least triple disruption here. Off the top of the deck, we got the Mech Knight, Orcust Mech Knight, send from the deck the World Wand. Let's now Reborn the Engraver. With the Engraver, we have the Nightmare Orcust, targeting Engraver to send from the deck the Skeleton. We're going to non-target monster banish, at least attempt to do so right now, as we now get negated. Now, with the Mirror Jade getting negated, we have Rinbrum, which could Reborn the Albaz to fuse to the field and then go into a form of disruption. We're going to Reborn with Banishment, which will fuse with either side. Then we're going to count up. Wow. Holy moly. Desiree and Galatea gone through that Banishment play to summon a Perskenian. Now, Perskenian could steal an extra deck monster from the opponent's graveyard as long as it was properly summoned to gain the effect of, let's say, Dingirsu. Dingirsu on special summon will send a card the opponent controls to the graveyard. That seems like a good card to steal, potentially. Now, after this resolved, we still have the Rinbrum Reborn Albaz to fuse into a form of disruption. Double disruption plus maybe the Dingirsu, as I said. Wait, why didn't we Reborn? Banish it and then summon it. Banish it or special summon it? Why not summon it? Send Perskenian to the graveyard. It was properly summoned, May. It was. It's properly summoned. It's super properly summoned. Yes, it was. Yeah. We just summoned improperly summoned is what you just said? Huh? Yeah, totally looks improperly summoned to me. Send the Mirror Jade with our improperly summoned Dingirsu according to the Twitch chat as the Aluber now negates. Reborn, back in the field. Now we have the Rinbrum activating to Reborn the Albaz to fuse with the opposing field. We're going to be fusing with the Dingirsu, possibly to go into another Mirror Jade, and we're just scooping it up. Nope. Ain't no way. They don't have Mirror Jade anymore. And then now they're going to summon another Mirror Jade. It's something I think you should really be focusing on in the matchup against Branded. And that is, are you sure you want to get rid of their Mirror Jade? Because they probably want you to get rid of their Mirror Jade. If not, they're planning to get rid of their own Mirror Jade because they want to summon another one. It's activatable more than once per turn if you get a second copy out or Reborn the one that's sent to the grave back in the field. What is this? Isn't Girsu full combo and you want to ensure that you don't have any other monster, right? If you control no other monsters, you could special summon the Legacy token. But by starting off with the Senjin play, we lose that additional token summon. We're gonna Golem into the back row, get summoning. Of course, Pescia again has no hand traps in sight, but we can attempt to break the board with our fusion deployment, summoning an Albaz from the deck. What can we do here? We already used up our Little Knight play, so the Masquerena is going into what exactly? It's going to have to go into an Apollo USA. Can the Crimson Tier summon a body on the field to additionally help with the Masquerena? Let's see. We have no Crimson Tier plus a link. We have Desiree, non-target monster, negate, or spell and trap card, that is, negate anything, up to 2 cards. And then if sent to the grave for the Masquerena, it will be able to send another card. And if we're sending for Masquerena, ideally we're going into an Apollo USA, which will be an additional 3 more disruption, which means we can't Little Knight banish and Masquerena. You may be thinking, why not Little Knight banish, then chain Masquerena? Then the Little Knight does not banish. It has to banish both cards or none. And we also have Duel. We lost out on Little Knight. We lost out on the ability to summon a Masquerena, I should say, into the Apollo. So we have negate and then Masquerena into something that's not even a form of disruption, which will then trigger Desiree. So we still have 3 disruption. Negate anything, Masquerena, and Duel. Artesia from the deck. Artesia, activate Diffuse. Desiree, negate. So we could simply just get the Desiree engraved through Masquerena to trigger its effect whenever we want. Retribution, send from the deck. High Spirit, reveal the Mercurier. Send Rinbrum plus itself to search our deck for an Albion Shrouded Dragon. This is where they're going to be able to recycle their play for going into Branded Fusion. But now there's a problem. The Albion Shrouded Dragon needs to send Branded Fusion, right? Because there's no Branded Fusion right now. But if we're under Droll, can this even activate? Well, you are going to send to then apply the following effect. Place the card, then if you placed, you get to draw a card. We cannot send Branded Fusion under Droll. Can't do it if this is in the hand, if we're sending from the deck. Now, if we can get this into the graveyard and then activate, it would be a legal activation. So how do we get around that? Well, if we can get the Sarah near in graveyard, that's another way to get the Branded Fusion engrave. Let's link it up into Moon just to trigger the Desiree. Reborn the Albaz. There we go. What was the problem? Albion being in the hand, not being activatable. Now in the grave, it is activatable. Desiree, send, target the Albaz. Albaz will now not be fusing. It has to be part of the fusion summon. But we already got around the Droll. Send Branded Fusion legally. Retribution add back. All we cared about was discarding. We didn't even care to fuse. 2-0 victory. Great play under the Droll. Very well done. Thank you, YouTube, for watching the top 16. In the very next video, we're going to go into the top 8 grand finale and top deck list. Let's go.